Hey, gang. So I am not Aaron Clippinger, as you have noticed. It's Marissa Peacock. I am standing in for Aaron because he really likes to burn his candle at both ends. He has been renovating his backyard, or as I like to call it, his mini kingdom, and he has discovered that running SquareCoil and trying to general manage his backyard renovation has just basically emptied all of his reserves. So you've got me. And while he's not here to, double check on what I'm doing, we're going to talk about him like any good employee would about their managers or their owners. So we're going to talk a little bit today about company culture and what makes certain company cultures different than others. So that I don't get too out of line, I do have his booklet here with his picture staring at me so that I don't get fired during this podcast. So company culture, it's something that is on the lips of almost everybody, depending on companies from 1 to 5 and companies 20,000 people, 50,000 people. It's really dependent, I think, so much on the people that you have, obviously, within your company, but the culture that you develop drives the people that you have in there, right? I mean, I guess that makes sense. And we were kind of shooting ideas around upstairs and discussing what it is that we like about our SquareCoil company culture. And one of it is, of course, that it's just a smaller group. So we really all know each other pretty well. We communicate on simple things that are personal to us, but we also communicate on things maybe that we don't understand about what we're doing about our job. And, a lot of times that group communication helps us lead into different directions that we maybe wouldn't have known on our own, right? I mean, again, it's all about communicating, I think, and feeling like you're open in that space to communicate. And that is one of the things that we have, or that we're lucky to have, in Aaron. So again, I think in his personal life, he probably is a little bit of a micromanager. I mean, look at his yard, or like the way, you guys have seen him. He's so pretty, right? You can tell that he really cares and projects this good look. So you would almost think that he'd be like that with his staff or with his company, but he's not. He really allows us to feel our way through situations or work with our customers. And, he gives us kind of general parameters, but for the most part, he's really standoffish, which I think, to be perfectly honest, when I first met him, was not what I would have expected. But he's allowed us all to grow. And, if you look at even my trajectory in the last 3 years that I've been with SquareCoil, he sort of came in and was like, perfect, you're from the industry, you've used this software before. If you have any questions, let me know. I had not come from that experience. For most of you guys in the sign industry, we tend to work with a lot of micromanagers. And some of that is because managers in this industry tend to be homegrown. And so they're a little bit insecure in those positions, right? So when you're a little bit insecure in your position, or with the knowledge that you have, I think that you hold on and you try to control things more. So I had come from a company that was a little bit more on that side. And when I came to this company, it, for me, felt like almost a whole 180. And I remember sort of coming home from work and being like, am I doing a good job? I mean, I guess the building hasn't burned down, so we're going to be fine. But feeling that in between, with a lack of micromanagement, I actually found was really hard for me personally. Now I'm thriving. I love it. I love our open communication. And as I said, when there are things that I don't understand or that the team doesn't understand, because of this idea of open door policy, we can go and get a response that doesn't make us feel like, we're dumb or stupid. And I was thinking about it, a lot of time when people don't do something, when you've asked them to do something and they haven't completed that task, or they haven't, done what you're expecting of them, there's usually 2 reasons for that. One is maybe you didn't set those expectations, potentially, their parameters or whatever. But 2 is that a lot of the time people don't do something because they don't fully understand what it is you're asking of them, or they don't actually have those skills. And if you tend to run more towards a micromanagement, they're less likely to come to you to ask for help, right? Because potentially the response is going to be, well, how do you not know this? How have you been here this long and you don't understand how to get this done? Or how, why would you be asking me this? This is a really fundamental thing about blank. And of course, that doesn't really lead to people then wanting to talk to you about anything. And so sometimes you can end up missing things or having people hide mistakes from you that you want to know about, but that are getting hidden because there's not a good feedback loop, which, happens in every company. I mean, talking about sort of the dynamics of personalities, I also tend to run a little micromanagement. I will say I thrive in that sort of rules and regulations. If you talk to my husband, like he's terrified of touching anything in the house because everything has a place. So if I'm gone or traveling, we'll talk. It'll be like, okay, I moved something in the kitchen. And I'm like, oh gosh, I'm such a butthead. Like my poor husband is terrified to move anything in the house. So I'm working on that personally. But in the company, when something goes sideways or we have a question, because of the personalities we have or the dynamic that we've created at SquareCoil, there's an openness that I clearly need to work on with my own husband. But the other thing that I think helps with company culture and building better company culture are small things like a once a month meeting, maybe of a touching base, or when you're working with your employees, asking open-ended questions. So one of the things that I talk about when I do training is our industry tends to be a little bit of what I call a push industry. And actually I call it that, but it's not like I created it. I've learned this from management books. And so a push industry is where you take information and you funnel it yourself and then you push it on to those below you. It tends to be people below you. And what this ends up doing is creating a culture of people who are less likely to take responsibility for things because the information that they have is already pre-funneled, right? So if I don't have that information, it's no longer my responsibility. That I don't know comes up a lot, or, I don't know, somebody told me this or somebody told me that. And that can create a lot of strife. And that kind of culture is something that if you asked anybody, they would say they don't want, but is what is traditionally created. So to do a more open culture, we call it a pull society or a pull kind of information. And one of the great things about our software, did you see that dig there? One of the great things about our software is that we allow things like people, what we would call downstream from us or underneath us, to pull information from the system when they themselves need it. So instead of pushing information when you think it's important, we're allowing our employees to pull the information when they're ready. To give you a perfect example, I have a team in production. Maybe they're working on a project. They're creating the world's most beautiful channel letter that's ever been seen. And a manager or a project manager or a salesperson has something that they want to tell that person about a completely different project. So you've interrupted them on what they're doing. You've pushed information on them that they are not ready for. And then the expectation is that they have absorbed that information and are somehow going to action it. When I explain it like this, you guys are all thinking to yourself, well, that's obviously not going to work. And my response is, of course it doesn't work. With this software and with a pull kind of system, with a culture that allows for your employees to feel like they can come to you with anything at any time, what you're doing is allowing them to finish the world's most amazing channel letter that they've ever seen. And then when they're looking for something else, they can come to you and say, hey, listen, I was taking a look at this project in SquareCoil, and I had a couple questions on this and this and this. Their world has changed. And because now they're driving that information, you can relax, right? You can put your information in there, have a conversation with them, and everybody can move on from there. So this culture is important. And in our industry, we have to be like that. Signage, although there are some really fundamental things that every company has in the signage industry, there are also so many things that change on a daily basis. We have to worry about the weather. We have to worry about our supplies and our materials, the fluctuation of those things. Our labor market. Don't even get me started on our labor market. So all of these things are hard to manage on a daily basis. Why would we also then add culture to that? By creating a culture where you can confidently know that your team have got your back, where you confidently know that the information is going to be there, that the team is going to be kind of a go get 'em. And that allows you to focus on other things. And again, one of my colleagues, she came from the government. Their culture is totally different. They have to have rules and regulations. You have to follow certain things. Well, if you're not like that, you're going to self-select out of that culture, right? So maybe micromanagement doesn't work for signage, but it does work for companies that have to follow certain things. I mean, can you imagine if the government was gray? I don't think that would work for anybody. There are certain rules that have to be followed so that we can make sure that everybody is on the same page. In the sign industry, we just don't have to do that, which is quite nice. All right. Well, I didn't really give too many good Aaron stories. I'm racking my brain as I'm sitting here thinking, what else can I dish? But I've teased him about his hair. I feel like that's enough for today. We'll let him rest. You'll see him next time, and we'll see if I get invited for the next time he maybe can't make it. Take care.